The moth, one of nature's most seductive animals.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markiplier, and welcome to Five Nights at...
I'm not going to go into too much detail about Sakuroma in this video. I actually have plans to make a video entirely about her in the future. Well, that time has finally come. Hey guys, welcome to another video where I kind of ramble about a specific topic. Retro rambles, retrospective. I have no idea what to call these. Anyways, in this video, I'll be talking about a particular character I created named Sakuroma. We'll be going over her creation, some trivia and facts regarding her impact, so on, so forth. This video will be more focused on the character herself instead of the impact she had on the FNF community, because I already talked about that in my last video, the community that broke me. Which, by the way, thank you again for the insane amount of support on that video. I had no idea it would take off the way it did. A quick disclaimer here, while I will not be showing anything adult in this video, I will be bringing up some adult topics from time to time, so if that's something that makes you squeamish or uncomfortable, then I would probably not watch this video if I were you. But before we get into it, did you know Sakuroma has a sister? Not a biological sister, but a foster one. She is the Cinegreed and her name is Hivemine. Her plushie is available right now at the time of this video being uploaded. She comes with 3 detachable loyal bees called the BLTs, Barry, Larry, and Terry, and is probably one of my most favorite makeshift plushie designs I've ever gotten. So if she seems interesting to you, please grab one. You only have 3 weeks to do so, and she needs to hit 200 units sold before the time is up, otherwise she will not be funded. Anyways, back to the video.
Dad? The fuck?
Sakuroma was conceptualized around December 4th, 2018. Back then, I never really wanted more OCs than just RetroSpecter, since at the time I thought having multiple characters would be kind of hard to keep track of. I also didn't want to take attention away from the mascot, RetroSpecter, so I kept her as a little headshot doodle for about a year. It wasn't until around December 19th of 2020 that I decided, you know, maybe having more than one character actually sounds kind of fun, and I drew out her entire full body while giving her a name. This name would be a simple combination of Sakura, aka a cherry blossom tree from Japan, and Aroma, which, if you don't know, female moths produce chemicals to attract males several hundred meters away, yada yada. You might notice a lot of my OCs are named this way, where I take one word and combine it with another to fit a specific theme or scenario. Retro is retrospect plus specter, atrocian is atrocious plus ocean, so on and so forth. This is an example of portmanteau, which is a word blending the sounds and combining the meanings of 2 others. For example, breakfast plus lunch equals brunch. I became a huge fan of portmanteau because I grew up with Pokemon. Squirt plus turtle equals Squirtle. However, I also wanted my OC names to sound creative and cool, so you'd never catch me naming my characters something like rock plus stone equals rockone. Because of this, it does take me quite a bit of time to come up with a name I really enjoy. After some brainstorming, Sakuroma rolled off the tongue really well and fit the theme of the character, so I went with that. While Pokemon is the biggest inspiration for my characters' names, Sakuroma was actually inspired by 2 different video games. The first game is one of my most favorite games of all time. At least one of my most favorite trilogies of all time. Metroid Prime 2 has a race of moth people called the Luminoth. In the game, there's only one awake that guides you on your journey, giving you tips on where to go next, and even giving you one of the coolest power armor suits in a video game of all time. Growing up, I was so fascinated with this race of moth people that I just loved how cool and well written they were, even if they were just the moth version of the Chozo from previous Metroid games. They stood out to me enough to really make a difference on how I wanted to design a moth character. However, I'm not a super skilled artist, so to draw something as detailed as the Luminoth from Metroid Prime 2 would not only clash with RetroSpecter's design, but also be nearly impossible for me to draw in the first place. This is where the second main inspiration comes in, Hollow Knight. I have a bit of a weird relationship with Hollow Knight. I played most of it when it came out, enjoyed it, but I was so into it that I couldn't bear myself to complete the game. So I stopped right before the final boss and would leave it unfinished for over 3 years. When I finally came back to it, I ended up forgetting everything about it, so I had to replay it all over again because I was so lost. Anyways, tangent aside, Hollow Knight has this particular art style that just really resonated with me. Combining the Luminoth from Metroid and the characters and art direction from Hollow Knight, along with some Pokemon flair, Sakuroma was finally created. However, the plans I had for her moving forward were not so wholesome, or very wholesome, depending on your perspective. Now you might be wondering, if all this stemmed from a serious atmospheric game like Metroid, an innocent fun game like Pokemon, and a dark but somber game like Hollow Knight, where the hell, no pun intended, did the sin of lust idea come from? Well, for those of you that don't know, I used to draw adult art for money. Now, before all of you Timmies freak out, I'm 29, so... However, at the time, I didn't want my mascot RetroSpecter to be associated with that kind of art. So this is where Sakuroma would come in. She would act as sort of an NSFW alt, so I could still have RetroSpecter as the safe for work face of the channel. Yin and yang, dark versus light, whatever. However, despite getting only a few adult art commissions, I ended up not really drawing much because I was not too confident in my anatomy skills. So she kind of just sat there for years in the archives not really doing much. Fast forward to Friday Night Funkin' and The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Two games I was simultaneously really into at the time. Both of these games associating with demons and The Binding of Isaac having the 7 sins concept in its game, ideas began to flourish in my head. RetroSpecter and especially Sakuroma already had horns, so what if I ended up making them demons, or more specifically, the 7 deadly sins? Retro was a little tough to figure out where to place, but Sakuroma was an obvious given, considering her original intent was to be associated with NSFW, so she officially became the sin of lust in my universe. From this, I commissioned an official reference sheet of her and gave her some trivia bullets that I'll go over now. Sakuroma is 39 years old and is 9 foot 6 inches, or about 289.5 centimeters. Fun fact, I made her 9'6" because it's the reverse of 69. This is because I suck at memorizing specific numbers, and this has actually helped me remember her height off the top of my head much easier. She gets offended when you ask her how much she weighs, so it's not clear what her weight actually is. This is even more difficult to figure out because despite having a long, tall figure, she can control her weight with her wings and her grace. She goes on her tiptoes from time to time like a ballerina dancer and has no toes. Sorry, feet lovers. She actually doesn't like the darkness and is a big reason for why her establishment, the Fuzzy Feeling, is so well lit all of the time. Speaking of establishment, the Fuzzy Feeling is like a combination of a brothel, bar, strip club, lounge, etc. in the center of hell. It is the second tallest building in hell, the first being Pride Tower because, you know, he's Pride. She can use spores / pheromones to allure victims and have them do her bidding, you know, standard lust demon stuff. She can use her ribbons as whips, and the tips of them secrete a purple truth serum that, when injected, will make you tell the truth accurately 100% of the time. Her tongue can also extend up to 3 feet long. I will not be disclosing any more information regarding that fact. There's a lot more trivia about her that isn't available to the public yet, which you will probably get to see more of whenever Verse Retro Part 2 comes out. Airplane. Speaking of Verse Retro, she would appear in my FNF mod Verse Retro Part 1 as a bonus unlockable song. More information on this is talked about in my other video. This is where I would have my first experience ever writing any dialogue for my characters whatsoever. Because of this, the dialogue was not great. Her first words when you face off against her are "ora ora," which I thought would be funny at the time, but the more I fleshed out her character, the more I personally feel like it didn't really fit her at all whatsoever. So in a future update for the mod, I switched it to peekaboo. At the time, I didn't really care what people thought of Sakuroma. After all, she wasn't my mascot, and the not safe for work mascot idea was pretty much a dead idea lost to time. Because of this, I wrote her as your typical down bad character who is overly flirtatious to anyone they see. After all, she is the sin of lust. She's going to be flirty to everybody, right? While that may be true, this is where my inexperience with writing characters would really come into play. I gave her probably one of the worst tropes you can give to a character based on lust. She was down bad for literally everybody. She wanted BF, she wanted GF, she wanted retro. It was as on the nose as you could possibly be with this type of stuff. I wrote it out, figured it was fine, and then released my FNF mod. Little did I know that people would absolutely love this character. I still remember the YouTube chat on the premiere of that video exploding and freaking the hell out when she finally appeared on screen. After all, the FNF community is really weird when it comes to female characters, but that's a different tangent entirely. Because of Sakuroma's unexpected popularity, some people did shift eyes towards her dialogue involving my mascot RetroSpecter, especially when I made FNF covers of them singing together. The dialogue in these are awful and just outright cringeworthy, and they give off the same energy as this meme that I'm showing on screen right now. Now, I won't deny, I made Sakuroma the way she is for a reason. She does cater to my preferences, but you have to remember that RetroSpecter is the sin of wrath, and Sakuroma is the sin of lust. The thing with my characters is that when they are in each other's presence, influence of a character's sin can affect the other. This would cause Retro in Sakuroma's presence to be annoyed but flirtatious, and being even more amplified in a second phase, Berserker Retro. Saku on the flip side in Retro's presence would begin to get more irritated and straight up yell at him, like in one of the FNF cover songs. But since Retro is my mascot, this kind of caused some people to scratch their heads, thinking this was some sort of weird self-insert with my mascot and a character down bad for me, quote unquote. Kind of like the Doctor from Fairly Odd Parents, Velma from the new Velma show, and that one writer from the newer Powerpuff Girls show. Ugh. However, I can assure that this was not the case for Retro and Sakuroma. You have to realize that I only had sprites of these two sins at the time to write anything with. None of the other sins sprites or portraits were even created yet. I was also still new to writing, and I really wanted to hammer home who these sins were. Thus, the angry, horny love duo commenced. Fast forward to Verse RetroSpecter IPU, aka the 1.5 update, and I began to write out an alternate universe version of Sakuroma named Maku. I explained Maku a bit more in my last video, so I'll just say here that she's a diet version of Sakuroma. She's still the sin of lust, but she's more innocent and clueless, almost like a younger version of Sakuroma. She's very supportive of her friends and team, and I personally feel like I wrote her pretty well. At least at the time, a lot better than Sakuroma. She also seemed to gain a more positive reception than Sakuroma did, and not just for the sex appeal. This would get me to think how I'd want to approach basically some sort of soft retcon for Sakuroma moving forward. In part 1, she was overly promiscuous, wanting to bang anything in sight, and was overall extremely one-dimensional. This is where I would begin to improve her interactions with other characters in the mod, and giving her a more motherly-like vibe, but still retaining that hint of deceit and evilness, since, you know, she's a sin. In one of the 1.75 dialogue combinations, her and Ace meet a doppelganger, who she tells Ace to get behind her so she can protect him. This is because she knows Ace's relationship with Retro and almost defends him like a mother. It's honestly kind of sweet. And me and Kamix were both really happy with how I wrote this interaction. Sakuroma was in this unique position where she was already flanderized and I had to work towards undoing the damage that I caused. I'm still in the process of it, and I have some really amazing ideas and stories for her. However, by this point, her presence around the internet was well known and the damage was already done. By this point, Sakuroma cemented herself into my channel permanently. I would end up using her for a few F&F covers, tons of livestream thumbnails, and the live streams themselves. Honestly, I was really happy that the second character I made that wasn't RetroSpecter was getting just as much love and attention as him. Sometimes even more. This is where I started to notice some troubling occurrences. Anytime Sakuroma showed up in a stream, my viewers would triple, and those same viewers would ask really weird and nasty questions about her. I can't tell you how many sexual questions I've been asked about her on streams, and just the amount of weird people I've gotten in general from her. Here's a few small stories I can share about her. This one's not that weird, but I had a person ask if they could make a moth OC, as if I owned all moths in existence, like it was some sort of closed species or something, due to Sakuroma. Imagine if animals or insects were copyrighted like that. I made a joke one time on one of my live streams saying that if I sold her, I wonder how much I could sell her for. This caused one of the viewers to DM not just me, but quite a few of my Twitch moderators on stream asking if I was serious and how much they'd have to pay to own her. Which, by the way, just to remind everybody listening, Sakuroma is just a character. People sell and trade characters all the time on websites like Toy House, so this in of itself isn't necessarily weird. But what was weird was the fact that they were being so pushy about buying this character I made a quick passing joke about. After enough uncomfortableness, the mods banned this person. But when you smite one Saku simp, another takes its place. I had a guy that asked in chat, unironically one time, if her thing tasted like Capri Sun. What? I'm gonna be honest, some Saku simps are just weird and gross as hell. Some, not all. Put down the pitchforks, Saku simps. On the flip side, you had people that hated Sakuroma so much that I've seen a few pieces of fan art of her being beheaded, sliced open, stabbed, etc. And while she's not my main character, I do have an attachment to Sakuroma. The same goes for all my OCs, especially the 7 Sins, whose F&F mods are being worked on to this day. So when I saw these, it really upset me, especially because these were a few of the first pieces of art that I had ever seen of my characters being painted in a negative light. Even having Retro as an OC for 10 plus years, he had never gotten this type of art. Now, similar to how some people are obsessed with and stalk e-girls, I was starting to almost feel that same way from a smaller section of my own community. After seeing some of the things I've seen on my streams regarding Sakuroma, and also all the weird art of her on specific websites, it almost felt like she was an e-girl of her own. People treated her like she was a real person, and some went even as far as thinking that I was dating her. This was unfair to my actual boyfriend Kamix, who had to watch this from the sidelines and was too afraid to say anything at first. Now, I don't show myself in real life online for a variety of reasons, some more personal than others. Retro is not only a way to represent myself online, but he also acts as sort of an online placeholder for me in real life. No, I don't think I'm a giant demon dragon in real life. Sorry, furries. Kamix, while he has shown himself in real life, still prefers to use Ace as a personification of himself online. Because one partner, me, is anonymous online and one is not, Kamix, we can't really take selfies or commission art of our real life selves together, showing off our relationship traditionally. So, Retro is kind of all he has to attach his real life relationship online to me. Now, do people online need to know we're dating? No, but like most relationships, it's nice to express your feelings to each other and sometimes share that feeling with the world. Now imagine being Kamix for a second. You see your boyfriend's character flourish in popularity with this fake character pairing being Retro and Saku. The videos of them interacting get extremely popular, and since Retro is based on a real person, I can't blame people that don't know for thinking Sakuroma is real as well. People started taking this ship as a real relationship. Meanwhile, Kamix had been dating me for 4+ years at this time, and despite Kamix and I being polyamorous, he was never included in the ship with Sakuroma, so it wasn't really fair to him on all sides. To make matters worse, it almost felt like people were pushing him away entirely from the real relationship altogether. Side note, I don't understand what it is with people, especially younger kids, enforcing straight relationships. It could be due to their parents teaching them that a male and female is the traditional and only way to date, but I digress. You can only imagine how Kamix must have felt during this time. Me being stupid and not realizing it, I just assumed everything was fine while he was hurting. He even tried things like making a heart-based cover featuring Ace and Zerktro, only to be met with the homophobic comments every now and again. Seeing these comments, along with the Sakuroma x Retro favoritism, really crushed his heart and his spirits. This was the final straw for me. I even remembered kind of breaking down on stream one time talking about this. This caused me to start slowing down on the Sakuroma inclusions with everything, because it was hurting my boyfriend. Really quick, I do want to say that this happened 2 years ago. Kamix is completely fine now, so please don't message him or anything about this. As time progressed, Sakuroma got mischaracterized to hell and back. I've seen comics of her with other FNF characters being madly in love with them as if they were some married couple on their honeymoon phase. I've also seen her portrayed as some dumb bimbo that acts like a valley girl waiting for their pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks. That's Maku's job. I've also seen people roleplay as her on social media sites that basically just use her as a sex object. You don't see Retro, the Sin of Wrath, walking up to a group of people saying hi, smiling, and asking how their day was. At the same time, the Sin of Lust wouldn't have a partner who she's madly in love with. It just doesn't make sense. Sakuroma is such a complex character that I was kind of in a struggle with how to handle her moving forward. You had people that hated her because of people that loved her and vice versa. It was almost this weird game of tug-of-war, and all I could do was just sit there and watch. I've even had a few friends that say they can't really view Sakuroma like they used to anymore because of the bad parts of the internet and what they had done to her. Now, I'm not going to point fingers. I handled her fame poorly. I used her for stream donation goals, gave her her own half week with IPU essentially, and I used her for quite a bit of clickbait. In fact, the thumbnail of this video is one as well, but hey, at least I had a good reason for it this time. Despite all of this, she is the second closest character to me besides Retro, so it does go outside of just using her for views or whatever. She's basically my second mascot at this point, and sometimes even a comfort character to me. However, I need to be careful with how I use her as to not have a situation like what happened with Kamix happen again. I actually had thoughts about making a new mascot to replace Retro, so people that like the Retro Saku ship could have that, while me and Kamix could have each other's relationship represented with a new character. I attempted to make a new Sona. His name is Prospect. He's pretty badass. Here's a pic of him. However, I decided not to do this because Retro had been a part of my life for 10+ years, so to have him just become a regular character would have been too difficult for me. My goal with Sakuroma now is to make people respect her more than just sex appeal. I'm making every attempt I can to turn her into an actual character with a charming personality, a lovable attitude, while retaining that deceitful nature and evil side of her. She has a long way to go, and undoing the damage that I caused myself will take some time, but I do think that characters can change for the better, especially with more time and experience in writing. Sakuroma has gone from a hoarding moth that just wanted sex to a powerful figure in my universe's underworld. I have a lot of plans for her story moving forward, both safe for work and not safe for work. I hope you guys enjoy the ride regardless when it happens. Now you might be wondering, where does Sakuroma's second phase come into all of this? Well, I guess you'll just have to wait for Verse RetroSpecter Part 2. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I've had this video idea for over a year now. I've brought up wanting to make it various times on my live streams throughout the past couple years, so it's nice to finally have it done. This one actually kicked my ass harder than the last video, despite that one being 10 minutes longer. So if you could subscribe, provided you enjoyed this video, it would be greatly appreciated. I also have a Patreon with some tiers that help fund Verse RetroSpecter Part 2 directly, one of which will even let you cameo your own OC. So if that sounds interesting, there is a link to that in the description. And just as a reminder to the beginning of this video, Hivemind plushies are available for 3 weeks at the time of this video, so please be sure to get one before it's too late if you can. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like, and honestly at this point, I'm kind of out of video ideas, so if you want to suggest stuff down below, even remixes, that'd be great. I could do videos on the other sins, but they don't have as much history compared to someone like Sakuroma, so it'd be a little trickier to make one for them. But anyways, rambling aside, thank you all so much for watching, and a shout out to these higher tier patrons: Korin, Led Damons, Dark Tarkin, Chai T Chai, and Deimos Anomalous. Take care everyone. Thank you for watching.